Clint Eastwood, Hollywood's enduring maverick, steps onto Jimmy Kimmel's stage to promote his latest movie. But what starts as a routine interview quickly turns tense, ending with Clint being asked to leave the studio. So how did a standard talk show appearance take such a sharp turn? Let's break it down. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and let us know where you're watching from. You won't want to miss this. The energy inside the Jimmy Kimmel Live studio is electric. Lights blaze. The crowd buzzes with anticipation. Clint Eastwood, now in his 90s, is the evening's headline guest. His very presence brings the room to a hush. He's there to talk about his new film, a gripping story about a rancher resisting a powerful corporation's land grab. It's a narrative that mirrors Clint himself, the squint, the gravelly voice. They're still as sharp as ever. But Clint doesn't care for the talk show routine, the scripted jokes, the exaggerated laughs. He's only here for one reason: to promote the film. Anything else, he's not interested. Backstage, tensions are already rising. Clint's longtime assistant, Maggie, sharp and experienced, can feel it. Earlier, she warned the producers, calm but firm, "Don't make this into a stunt." They nodded, but she saw through them. They were hoping for a viral clip, something headline-worthy. They wanted Clint to loosen up, maybe wear a goofy hat or poke fun at himself. But Maggie knows Clint won't play that game. He's never been one to bend, not for studios, not for anyone. The producers brushed her off. It's a decision they'll regret. In the green room, Clint sips his black coffee, eyes fixed on the monitor, as Jimmy opens the show. Jimmy's in his element, joking about celebrity mishaps, the audience loving every punchline. Clint doesn't flinch, his fingers tapping softly on the armrest. Maggie notices, the subtle sign that he's sizing things up, like a gunslinger before a duel. They're planning something, she murmurs to a nearby stagehand, who just shrugs. The stage manager gives the cue. Clint stands, adjusts his jacket, and walks toward the curtain. No entourage, no fanfare. On stage, Jimmy is wrapping up a bit about a pop star's latest outburst. The audience laughs right on cue. Then he switches tone. The legend himself, Clint Eastwood. The band hits a gritty note. The crowd erupts. Clint steps out, his stride measured, owning the room with every step. A firm handshake, then he takes his seat. His posture is rigid, eyes calmly scanning the set. The applause dies down. Just Jimmy and Clint now. The atmosphere shifts. Jimmy opens with safe questions about the movie, its themes of loyalty and standing firm. Clint leans in, his voice weathered but strong, discussing the rancher's fight, the greed, the struggle. His words are precise, each one landing with weight. The audience is locked in. But Jimmy needs to keep the pace light. He's looking for a moment that'll go viral. He throws in a casual joke about Clint's cowboy roles, asking if he still rides. Clint's response is curt, "When it matters." The crowd laughs, but his tone is flat, almost cautionary. Jimmy presses on, digging into an old story, a supposed bar fight on the set of a classic western. He wants a funny anecdote. Clint's jaw tightens, his eyes narrow. "Never happened," he replies, voice cutting through the laughter. The audience reacts, half laughing, half unsure. Jimmy chuckles, trying to lighten the moment, unaware he's misjudged it. Then he reaches behind the desk and pulls out a cowboy hat, holding it up with a grin. "Come on, Clint, one quick shot for the fans," he says, waving it in the air. The audience claps, expecting a bit. Clint doesn't budge. His stare hardens. "Put that away," he says quietly, but firmly. The crowd falls silent. Jimmy's smile falters. From the wings, Maggie watches, shaking her head. This is not going to end well. The quiet in the studio is thick. A long pause stretches out like the calm before a storm. Jimmy, still holding the hat, laughs awkwardly. Okay. No hats tonight," he says, placing it back on the desk. But the mood has shifted. The audience senses it. Clint hasn't moved, still locked in on Jimmy, as if staring down a threat. The air is tense. Backstage, Maggie's jaw is set. She snaps at the stage manager. "I told you not to push him." The manager, visibly sweating, signals the control booth for a commercial break. But the director wants the tension. This is the kind of drama that draws attention. Jimmy, clearly uncomfortable, tries to steer things back. "Let's talk more about the film," he says with a forced smile. He asks about the inspiration behind the story, hoping to reset the tone. Clint leans forward, hands on his knees. His response isn't what Jimmy was expecting. "It's about people who don't back down," Clint says. "People who stand their ground when others try to take what's theirs. It's not about playing dress-up for cheap laughs." The remark hits hard. The audience reacts. A few gasps, some claps. Jimmy's expression tightens, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. Trying to regain control, Jimmy moves to a question about the production. But Clint interrupts, his voice sharper now. "I came here to talk about something real," he says, scanning the studio, the lights, the faces. "Not to be part of some ratings stunt." The crowd stirs, some cheer, others whisper, unsure if this is a scripted moment or something more. Jimmy doesn't know how to respond. His usual charm isn't working. He glances toward the floor producer, who's motioning to end the segment, but Clint isn't finished. "I've been doing this longer than you've been alive," he tells Jimmy, voice calm but pointed. "I don't need to play games to promote a film." The audience is divided, some cheering, Clint, others thinking it's all part of the act. Jimmy leans in, smiling, though it doesn't feel genuine. "We're just having fun, Clint. No need to get upset," he says, but it rings hollow. He shifts gears, hoping to change the tone, asking about Clint's directing process, maybe hoping flattery will soften things. Clint doesn't take the bait. "Fun?" he repeats, his tone dry. "Is this your idea of fun? Putting people on display for cheap laughs?" He gestures around at the stage, the lights, the setup. The audience reacts, stirred by the tension. Backstage, the producers scramble. The director considers cutting to break, but the ratings are soaring. Someone high up decides to let it continue. Maggie watches, pacing, shaking her head. She expected this. Seeing Clint on the monitor, stone-faced, she knows he's not finished. On stage, Jimmy's jokes are missing the mark. He attempts to lighten the mood, asking Clint about favorite roles from the past. Clint cuts him off. "You don't get it," he says, voice clear and strong. "It's not about me, it's about respecting the work and the people watching." The audience erupts, some clapping, some booing. The room feels on edge. Jimmy starts to lose patience. His tone sharpens, dropping the friendly act. "We're just trying to give the audience what they want," he says, motioning toward the crowd. "They admire you, they want to see the legend, but it backfires." Clint's eyes harden. He leans in. "They don't want a gimmick, they want honesty." His words hang in the air, cutting through the noise. A voice from the back yells something unintelligible, breaking the moment. Jimmy jumps on it, rising to his feet. "We'll be right back, folks," he says, forcing a chuckle. The band plays a loud tune to fill the gap, but the tension lingers. Clint stays seated, eyes fixed on Jimmy. The atmosphere is charged. Backstage, Maggie mutters under her breath, watching it all unfold. The director hesitates. Ratings are high, but the show feels unstable. As the band wraps, Jimmy sits again, leaning toward Clint. He speaks quietly, off mic, but the front rows catch parts of it. "Let's just cool off, talk about the movie." Clint doesn't blink. "You had your chance," he replies, just loud enough for the front to hear. Phones are out, clips already spreading online. Jimmy's jaw tightens. He's not used to being pushed on his own stage. He turns to the crowd, trying to rally support. "We all love Clint, right?" he asks, arms raised. A few applaud, but the energy is scattered. Clint sits back, arms crossed, unreadable. He's not here for applause. He's here to make a point. The stage manager signals again to close the segment, but Jimmy tries once more. He grabs a cue card, asks about the film's cast, compliments Clint's direction. Clint interrupts. "You're not hearing me," he says, his voice calm but firm. The room quiets. "It's not about the movie anymore. It's about you trying to make me part of your act." The audience gasps. Some shout, "Tell him, Clint." Others boo. The divide grows. Jimmy's smile fades. He's dealt with tough interviews, but not like this. Not being called out live, on his stage. He tries to laugh, but it sounds strained. Come on, it's just a TV show, he says, holding out his hands. We're just trying to have fun. Clint shakes his head, slow and deliberate. Not me, he says. I came here to talk about something that matters. You turned it into a sideshow. The words hit hard. Half the crowd cheers, the other half boos. The noise swallows the room. From the wings, Maggie watches, nodding slightly. She's seen Clint handle bigger situations. The director finally calls for a break. Ads flash across monitors. The band stops. Lights dim a little, but Clint stays put, still in his seat, unmoving. Jimmy stands, whispering to the producer, clearly frustrated. The audience buzzes, some chanting Clint's name, others arguing. Security edges closer. 2 guards step forward, watching Clint, but they hesitate. They know who he is. Maggie steps forward, grabs the stage manager's arm. Don't touch him, she says, quiet but firm. The stage manager backs off, unsure. Meanwhile, the producers are huddled, raising voices, scrambling to save the segment. Jimmy paces near his desk, rubbing his face, clearly rattled. Clint sits calmly, sipping water a stagehand brought over. He scans the audience. Some fans try to catch his eye. One yells, "You're the man, Clint." He gives a small nod. The break's nearly over. The director makes the call, let Clint stay, but Jimmy must regain control. Cameras roll, the band kicks in. Jimmy returns to the desk, his smile back in place, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. Clint's ready, and he's not here to play nice. The studio lights blaze back on, as the final notes from the band fade, and the Jimmy Kimmel Live audience settles in. A low buzz of conversation runs through the crowd, anticipation thick in the air. The cameras roll again, and Jimmy Kimmel returns to his chair, smile intact but clearly forced, like a fighter re-entering the ring, after a tough round. Clint Eastwood hasn't moved. He sits firm, eyes focused somewhere beyond Jimmy, as if the host is merely background noise. The crowd's mood is restless, divided, some chanting Clint's name, others waiting for Jimmy to recover his footing. Backstage, Maggie watches closely, arms folded, her face showing a mix of concern and admiration. The producers are tense, the director's voice sharp in headsets. Keep control, Jimmy. Don't let him run the show. Jimmy claps once, trying to recenter the energy. We're back with the legendary Clint Eastwood, he announces, tone lighter now, hoping to reset the mood. He quickly jumps into a question about the film's cinematography, steering things toward Clint's strengths. But Clint isn't here for soft pitches. He answers plainly, talking about the raw visuals, and how the landscape becomes a character. Then without prompting, he shifts course. You know the problem with places like this, he says, motioning to the set. It's all noise and flash. You forget what actually matters. The audience reacts, some applauding, others squirming in their seats. Jimmy forces a nod, trying to roll with it. Fair enough, he says, leaning back casually. But this is entertainment. People come here to enjoy themselves. He motions toward the crowd, seeking support, and receives a mixed response. Clint stays steady. They're looking for truth, he replies, his voice direct. Not the polished version you hand them just to keep the clapping going. The words hit hard. Some cheer, others boo. Jimmy's smile fades, fingers tightening on the desk. He's losing his grip on the moment, and he knows it. The floor producer signals for a topic change, but Jimmy's pride has kicked in now. He tries a firmer approach. Clint, no one's questioning your legacy, he says, leaning in. But you're on my stage, and we have a show to run. It's a clear line in the sand. The audience reacts loudly. Clint's eyes narrow slightly. Your stage, he says evenly. I'm here because I chose to be, not to play along. The audience erupts, some standing to cheer, others shouting at Jimmy to respond. From the wings, Maggie mutters, "Here we go." Security steps closer, alert but cautious. Jimmy, clearly frustrated, stands breaking the usual host decorum, and points at Clint. If it's about respect, he says, his voice raised. How about respecting the people who invited you here? The room explodes in noise, a storm of applause and heckling. Clint rises slowly, measured, his presence commanding. He doesn't need volume, every word lands. Respect isn't a given, he says, stepping forward. It's something you earn, not something bought with lights and applause. The audience roars. The director shouts for a cut, but the cameras stay on, capturing the moment Jimmy's show turns into Clint's message. The studio is in chaos, cheers and boos collide, the tension between Clint and Jimmy thick enough to touch. Clint's remark about respect hangs in the air, the audience feeding off the confrontation. Jimmy, flushed and tense, stands silent, caught between defending himself and salvaging the segment. The crew scrambles, but no one cuts the feed. Backstage, Maggie watches with sharp focus. The security team hovers at the stage edge, unsure what action, if any, to take. Jimmy breaks the moment first, stepping back and forcing a laugh that sounds too tight. "Okay, Clint. Message received," he says, attempting to move on. He turns to the audience. "Let's give it up for Clint Eastwood." Some clap, but the sound is weak, lost in the louder mix of reactions. Clint doesn't respond. He keeps his eyes on Jimmy, considering whether to continue. The floor producer signals security to intervene. One guard approaches carefully. "Sir, let's take a quick walk," he says, voice respectful. Clint turns, fixing his gaze on the guard. The whole set seems to pause. "Don't," he says quietly, not a threat, just a command. The guard halts. Maggie steps in, voice sharp. "He'll leave when he's ready." The producer backs off, but Clint raises a hand, signaling her to stop. He looks from Jimmy to the audience. "I've said what I came to say," he tells them, voice calm. "That's all." Then without another, he walks off the stage, his steps slow but assured. The crowd breaks into a mix of cheers and murmurs, the weight of the moment sinking in. Jimmy stands alone. The band starts to play, trying to fill the silence. Jimmy smiles again, but it's shaky. "Well, that was something," he says, half laughing. The audience chuckles, uncertain. Behind the scenes, the producers are scrambling. The director is shouting instructions, trying to stabilize the rest of the show. Maggie follows Clint to the green room. He grabs his coat, composed. "Told him not to push you," she says quietly. Clint just nods, distant, already moving on. Outside, social media explodes. Clips of the standoff spread rapidly. Fans and critics take sides. The show limps through the next segment, Jimmy's usual rhythm thrown off, but none of it matters. The Eastwood moment overshadows everything. It's a story that'll be revisited endlessly. The night a Hollywood icon walked into a talk show and refused to play along. As Clint exits into the night, the studio still buzzing behind him, one thing is clear: he didn't just walk away. He made a statement that won't be forgotten. That's the full story. Quite the night. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit subscribe for more stories like it. We're building a space for people who care about what's real. Drop a comment, let us know where you're watching from. LA, Tokyo, somewhere remote, and tell me, was Clint right to stand firm, or did he take it too far? Like, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, stay grounded, and take care.